Welcome to the Value Driven Brand Podcast, where you'll learn insights on how to communicate with authenticity, deliver genuine value, and create a memorable experience across your entire customer journey, helping your business become the sought-after leader in your industry. I'm your host, Aileen. Now, on to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Value Driven Brand Podcast. I am your host, Aileen Day, and today I am joined with a very special colleague, somebody that I haven't been in touch with for a little while, but they came back into my periphery recently, and I am so grateful that they agreed to join us here today. It is the one, the only Glenn Tranter, productivity consultant, king of working smart, not hard. Welcome to the Value Driven Brand Podcast, and thank you so much for coming on and joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing really well, thanks, Aileen. And with an introduction like that, I'll come back again.
I'm working on making my introductions like world famous. People are going to be blushing by the time they're finished, just walking on cloud nine, knowing how amazing they are, because that's how you get on this podcast. You have to be amazing. And this is the Value Driven Brand Podcast. So we have to be with people that create value, and you most certainly do that. Now, if you don't know awesome. Who Glenn is, I'm going to let you know. Glenn is the trainer. My goodness, start again, Aileen. I'm just all fumbled in words. Glenn is the founder of Glenn Tranter Consulting and is a time management expert, and he helps individuals and businesses and teams all over the country save time and get results by working effectively from anywhere. Now, if that is not the dream come true, to have that as your life, being able to take your work and do it effectively anywhere you like in the world, then, what is life? I absolutely, especially in COVID times, which is a swear word in my household. I hate the word, but it is true that it has become one of the most, wanted and desired things, is to be able to take your work and just do it from anywhere. And Glenn has been helping people do exactly that for over 30 years with experience in consulting, leadership, and sales and large-scale projects. But there's so much more to this story, but I'm going to let Glenn be the one to tell us. So Glenn, give us some insight. How does one become a productivity and time management expert? How did Glenn Tranter become the leading face in productivity?
Yeah, and that's a really interesting question. I'd love to say I've always been like this, but that would just be a big fat lie, because it's not really how things worked out. So if I roll back a number of steps, when I was 16 years old and I was in Form 5 or Year 11 going to high school, I played in a semi-professional basketball league. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to be a professional basketballer. And then with some injuries and stuff, and a big part of the reason I wasn't quite good enough, I never made the absolute highest professional ranks, but I did play at that semi-professional basketball league level until I was 25, when I retired because of a number of injuries. And at that stage, I threw myself into work, and I was working in the IT sector, so working for a subsidiary of a US company. Now, anyone who's ever worked for US companies will know that return to shareholder, return to stakeholder reach very highly on the list of achievements that you have to do. So quarterly targets, really, really driven, so you would work quite hard. And I worked my way up through the ranks from being a junior consultant through to looking after Southeast Asia for a division, and had received a number of accolades throughout my career, but I didn't necessarily work smart. I worked hard. So I would throw a lot of effort into it. So I'd work 60, 80 hours a week, travel 2 out of every 3 weeks, had a young family. And my wife used to tell me that she was a bit concerned that I couldn't keep that up. So that was such terrific advice. I totally ignored it. And I totally ignored it because I'm
Who doesn't ignore the amazing advice from their loved ones? That's our job.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I ignored it because I did enjoy work. I was getting results. So I'm someone who's a high achiever. I'm driven. So up until I was 40 years of age, when I'd go for a 5K run, I'd go for a PB. So I'm trying to beat the time that I ran when I'm 18 years old.
Oh my
It's just
goodness.
how I'm driven. So as I'm sort of managing this workload and the travel and managing having the young family, I started sleeping less and less, but that was okay. I had this game plan. I'd retire in 5 years, so I could just last another 5 years. And that all came crashing down for me in 2006 when I burnt out. I burnt out quite severely. I had chronic fatigue syndrome to the extent I didn't work for 15 months. It took me that long to recover. So the irony of how did I get involved in productivity is I didn't want to go back and do what I was doing. I actually wanted to go and help people and organizations. So I've got this really driven nature of me. So this high achiever nature, and I wanted to help people get their results in less time. Now, I had no expertise in time management or anything like that. So I joined a time management company called PEP Worldwide, and I was part of PEP Worldwide for 8 years and absolutely loved my time there and learnt an awful lot. And then there was a changer in the business ownership and they shut down some offices. So they shut down the Melbourne office and I came home and I was cooking steak on the barbecue. And I went and grabbed an envelope, and on the back of an envelope, I scribbled out a business plan, and Tranter Consulting was formed at that stage.
Oh my goodness. I love that. I hope there was a beer involved while you were cooking a steak on the barbie, by the way.
There wasn't, because I was locked in. I was in focus mode. So I needed to come up with a plan and a strategy. And it started off very humble beginnings, no customers, no content, no nothing. Sure, I had a phone book of people, but that doesn't just necessarily mean you're going to get customers from day one.
No, it does not. No, it does not. So how did you start to educate, I guess, the people that were maybe your target audience? And I could only imagine people like yourself would be your perfect target audience, driven people in business, people working far too hard. But that I feel you when you say, I loved it and I was getting returns. I was exactly the same way. I used to do at least 80-hour weeks would have been an easy week.
Yep.
Back in my 20s and 30s, and but I loved it, and I didn't know any different until I ended up, similarly to you, in hospital. Funny about that, how you need something really serious to smack you in the face and make you realize there's got to be a different, or at least a better way to do things. So how did you start to help people realize, hey, you can get the same return on investment without your life being that investment?
Yeah. And, great advice I was given early on was that you have to niche. You have to find your niche. And productivity / time management's a product. It can apply to so many different industries, job functions, level of seniority. So, of course, I was listening to find your niche, but that's not how I was trying to market myself. So I actually found it quite difficult at the start. And then I found someone early on who was looking for a time management workshop. I got in front of this HR director, which was fantastic, chatted through about, hey, I'm just launching my company. Here's how I would do it, how I'd go about it. I'll give you a money back guarantee if you don't like it, all those sorts of things like that.
I love that though.
Yeah. And the person signed the dotted line. Guess what? I didn't have one piece of content. I had nothing. And I gave myself, I think it was a 6-week window before we could start the program, because I had to go and create the program. And so
I
that
love
sort of
that.
put the pressure on. But believe it or not, it's essentially the same program that I have today with a few tweaks to it.
Yeah.
So I decided I didn't want to build it in PowerPoint. I want to be different. So I'll build it in Prezi.
Oh, I love Prezi.
I'd never touched Prezi before, and I was struggling with it. So I was feeling the heat of that. So my son, Jake, who was 15 at the time, he actually built my slides for me in Prezi.
Oh, what a champion.
He actually went and built my website as well for me. So he's done so many good things for me like that. Don't worry, he's been paid back in full multiple times over. I'll claim that. He may not, but I'll claim that.
Look, if that was my son, I'd be like, do you have a roof over your head? Yes, you've been paid.
Well,
That's so brilliant.
Yeah. Well, speaking of roofs overhead, I'm actually, this backdrop here, that's his bedroom, because he's actually 20 now and he goes to college in the US. So he's on a basketball scholarship in the US. So he's studying business at a school in Silicon Valley. So I steal his room when I have to do things like this.
I love that. That's so good. That's brilliant. What a backdrop as well. Oh, that's amazing. And, you know, obviously the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So that's pretty cool. Actually, one of my best friends, her son is looking for a scholarship to America for a basketball scholarship. So I'll have to let her know that dreams do come true.
They absolutely do. They absolutely do.
That is such a cool story. I love that.
Yeah. And so let's say I got the first customer and I actually got some raving reviews that I got another 3 programs out of that same customer.
Love word of mouth.
Word of mouth. So one of the things that I do is that I ask people if they liked it, obviously, and then when they're doing a post-diagnostic survey, and I give them some reporting of the levels of improvement. But a question I asked, is there anyone that they would like to refer on? And we got some referrals out of that. So none of it was rocket science.
Yeah.
But then you've still got to go and find new pieces of business. And I probably struggled with that for a couple of years of really finding out where my niche is. What is it that I do that's really going to attract people as such? And I think that when you even get the answer, then something like COVID comes along and it changes. So it's forever changing and you've got to move with it. But I think COVID, for people like myself, has opened up a global marketplace. So it's opened up opportunities for me.
Absolutely couldn't disagree with you. That I'd have to agree with you. Absolutely. The amount of businesses that I have been in touch with who have said to me, this could have not come at a better time. I have, you know, in essence, and for those who are in business, and it doesn't matter what your business is, when you first start out in business, it is the majority of you would have, if you haven't yet, are going to experience what Glenn's just talked about, where, you know, trying to find your customer isn't always as easy as, you know, people would have you believe. And I know that for myself as well, and for the multitude of businesses that I consult and work with, find exactly the same predicament. But with what's happened in this year, it's now kind of given everyone this permission to go bigger and go wider and go global. And it is so fantastic to see businesses go, you know what, all right, let's do this virtually. Let's see what happens, and remove that fear factor from something that, you know, maybe last year they went, oh, it'd be nice if I could do a virtual event. Well, now they've got no bloody choice and they have to. And it didn't end up being as scary as they may have anticipated. So they've ticked another box, which is so great to hear.
And it wasn't all beer and Skittles when COVID first hit. So day 3 of COVID hitting, within 24 hours, I lost 2 months worth of work. And it wasn't that the work couldn't be converted to virtual. It was just the organizations weren't sure where their next dollar was coming from. And I got that and understood that.
Yeah.
My wife, Sam, didn't necessarily get that and understand that, because her view in this, my view is, well, the glass is half full, it's not half empty. Hers is, well, we're not going to get another dollar until COVID's over. So where's the plan? What is it? And you look at these things and you've just got to strategize, and you say, well, I don't know what the exact names will be, but here's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And when you've got a process that you follow and approach, if you're adding value to what you do, it's going to come out in the long run. It's going to. Sometimes business is just a matter of timing.
It's the long game. I say to people constantly, stop treating it like Tinder. It's not Tinder. It's elite singles. Yeah. We're in there for the relationship, all right? Not the one night stand. Sorry, and stop watching the news. That's just stop watching the news. There is nothing newsworthy on there. So Glenn, they are amazing insights into what it takes to run a business on your own. But this is the value-driven brand, and we are here to help those listening in understand what are some of the tactics that you would prescribe to the businesses, to entrepreneurs, to leaders wanting to create their own value-driven brand. What are those, low-hanging fruit, low barrier to entry strategies that you could share with everyone listening or watching? And if you're watching, hi. What are the strategies? What's a few strategies that you could help the listeners with when it comes to creating their own value-driven brand?
Yeah, I think the first one, and it was a real big one for me, it had to be a subject that I was in love with. So when I burnt out in IT, and it was sort of heavy IT, I fell out of love in IT. So I didn't want to do that anymore. And to be brutally honest, I think for the last 2 years I was doing it, I was probably doing it just for the money, not because I really loved it anymore. So it's got to be something that you love. So when I burnt out, one of the things that I did, I was doing meditation. I was learning meditation at a Zen monastery. And the head abbot, or the head monk, he said to me, when you go back, what are you going to do? And all the negative thoughts came pouring into my mind of what I didn't want to do. And he goes, I think you should help somebody.
Aww.
And I said, what do you mean? Who could I help? What could I do? And he goes, oh, time's up, got to go. And it was masterful. It was one of these grasshopper moments. So within a week, I had sorted out what it is, what I wanted to do.
Oh, that's made me cry.
But there might be people in any one sort of network that you can have discussions to find it, because straight off the bat, you probably come up with a blank piece of paper. Yeah. And that's okay, but it's out there somewhere. So you've just got to keep searching for it. So first of all, is do something that you're passionate about, because it's going to take a bit of elbow grease. So once you're passionate about it, the next question becomes well, how good are you at it? Because you might be passionate about a topic, but if you're no good, it's not going to have a commercial value attached to it. So if you're not good, and that's okay. So productivity. I was also always a high achiever, but it was done through hard work rather than working smart. Now, the irony of my expertise, of all the things that I did wrong, I've been able to apply to my productivity business of almost the reverse.
Yes.
And so what you want to do is you want to start getting really good, put meat on the bone, as to what it is that you're learning. So what podcasts you need to listen to, books you need to read, what seminars do you have to attend? Yeah, absolutely, this one. What are those things you need to do? And then how can you start building up your IP deck so that you live it and breathe it and it comes out of your pores?
Yes,
So
I love that.
So we've got be passionate about something, get really good at it. And the third one is you can't sell a secret. So you might be really good, but you just may not be confident or comfortable in going and talking to people. And you've got to just get over that limiting belief. And there can be ways and tools. So if you're not good at cold calling, then you may want to use tools like social media, say LinkedIn, for instance. So I post on LinkedIn 3 times a week. I post on LinkedIn, people like and comment on my stuff. We get connections. I'm then able to form a conversation with them to move them through my sales funnel. And then I start thinking about people who I'm having these conversations with, and I see there's other people who are similar on LinkedIn. So I'll do some outreach to those people. So that might be through LinkedIn, that might be a phone call. It's whatever mechanism works for you, but you can't sell a secret.
Yes. And it's so funny, you know, when you talk about limiting beliefs, I suck at selling myself. I really do. And people think people think I'm being funny when I say that. They're like, no, you don't. You're always talking about yourself. I'm like, yes, but when it comes down to the crunch, I actually freeze, and I've always, and this is, you know, when we talk about limiting beliefs, and if you're not sure, if you're listening in and you're thinking what the fuck is a limiting belief? Well, a limiting belief is something that you believe within yourself that you cannot do. And for years and years and years, I would tell myself as a limiting belief that one of the things I cannot do is go through an interview, because at the point where I have to tell somebody and try to convince them of how good I am, I turn into a mess, and I get really self-conscious, and I ultimately do myself a disservice and don't sell myself at all. And if anything, they walk away going, what the hell just happened? Who even was that? But, and I think, you know, I don't know about you, but because I'm totally woke AF these days and highly self-aware, part of me actually thinks that's why I used to work so hard, because my subconscious would say to me, if you work so hard, no one will be able to deny how good you are, and you won't have to sell yourself because your work will speak for itself. But that didn't end up happening either.
I absolutely feel you, and that was a real issue for me, was selling myself versus selling someone else's product. Selling someone else's product is so much easier, but when it's yourself. So my business is called Tranter Consulting, so it's got my credibility behind it, everything that I do. And what you're touching on, of the people who I help, so I help a lot of emerging leaders and leaders. So people have been a technical expert, and then abracadabra, they've been made a leader, even though they don't really have leadership expertise. And then they might start struggling because they're overwhelmed because they've got so much work on. But the most dangerous ones I find are people who are conscientious, but they're also perfectionists. And that's what I was, a conscientious perfectionist. So you work so hard because you want to do such a good job, and you just keep on, you're raising the standards all the time, and you're pushing and you're pushing and pushing. And that's sort of what happens with burnout. So we've got to be kind to ourselves and let go of this perfectionism, because we're throwing so many balls in the air. They're not all going to stay up all the time. And that's okay, as long as the important ones are staying up in the air.
Exactly. And you've got to find, and I've seen this analogy of, you've got to You've got to concede that some balls are made of glass and some balls are made of rubber, and some are okay to drop and they'll bounce, and other balls, you can't drop them. You drop them, they smash. And I think that self-care is one of those glass balls. And what I love about what Glenn does with businesses is I am forever not against, but I am forever in conversations with businesses who are potentially looking to scale or make life easier, and they want to do it through automation, right? And I get very mindful. I used to be nervous, but now it's just very mindful of what happens when businesses automate too far over. And I've talked about it before, and I think when you start to go too hard into automation, you lose my favorite thing. You lose great sex, you lose a customer experience, you lose your employee experience, and you lose the human experience if you take it too far. But the reason so many businesses want to automate is it's to save them time. And they think that if they automate the bejesus out of the way they do business, that, it will, it will help them manage their time. But what Glenn does is Glenn shows you human-based activities that can give you a return on your time investment. And therefore, you're not losing that human experience. If anything, you're actually learning how to gain more time to create an even better human experience. And that, to me, if you are a leader in business, that to me should be your first port of call, is how to actually learn how to use your time more effectively before going and looking at systems and artificial intelligence to do it for you. And that's not to say that some of those things aren't absolute lifesavers, but the flip side to that is, if I had $1 for every time I have to spend upgrading those lifesavers, it doesn't always work out in the wash. So I would rather understand intrinsically as a human being, what can I do to work smart as opposed to work hard, because I've done working hard. And to be honest, like Glenn, I've come back from burnout and gone, not anymore, brother. That's not happening. I am not working 100-hour weeks. When people say, oh, you work on your own, you must work 100-hour weeks. Not anymore. Been there, done that, not doing it again.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is I actually think I get more done now by working less hours. I get more done because I'm more effective.
Same.
You're the same. Yeah.
Same.
But what I noticed when I first got into time management, when I was working for this company, it had a one-size-fits-all methodology. And what I discovered is one-size-fits-all methodologies work for roughly 70% of people. But what happens if you're in the 30% so that it doesn't fit? So what I do, I believe everyone's got the best way in which they work. That might be different to the person sitting beside them, or who they're reporting to, or family members, or whoever it is. And what you've got to do is you've got the flexibility to adapt principles to how somebody works their best at their peak. And when you do that, then your productivity can go through the roof, because when it's just these one-size-fits-all approaches, it doesn't fit properly. It's like putting on someone else's pair of shoes. It's your size, but you're wearing them around for a day and then your feet start to hurt because it doesn't quite fit you perfectly. So you want to customize it to yourself.
Yeah, and I think that is so true. I have gone through up-team time management programs and productivity programs in the previous careers, and none of them particularly stuck. And I couldn't latch on to any of them that actually created a noticeable change in the way that I worked and the return on my time investment until very recently. And I think you're so right. And I love that you go in and you get to learn about the person first to know which model or what type of performance needs to be, tweaked here and added there or minus there. And that,
Yeah.
again, that's that human experience that I, preach about all the time. Actually,
Yeah.
if anyone is interested, Glenn also has and it's a great introduction, I guess, to Glenn's work. Is he has a self-paced email mastery course that you can sign up to, actually, and I'll put the link to it on the website, valuedrivenbrand.com/podcast series. So when this goes live and you find this podcast on the website, there will be a link down the bottom. And I would implore you to have a go at it, because if you can just pull, 30, talking to Glenn about that course, he's saying that most attendees are getting a minimum of 30 minutes back every day just from changing the way they process their email inbox. 30 minutes a day. Do you know how much stuff you can get done that makes an actual difference to your day, to your life, to the life of others? When you actually have the tactics to help you be more productive.
Yeah.
Are you happy for me to do that, Glenn?
Absolutely, and thank you so much. So this is for Outlook users. So we get right into Outlook's functionality. So this generic piece would be valuable to Gmail users, but I wouldn't suggest a Gmail user buys it. So it's if you're an Outlook user, and if you're buried under emails and you don't really know what to do, people either give up, so they just put up with it, or they put in a system that's just inefficient. So if you're one of those two and it doesn't feel right, then go through this self-paced program. It's got 95 minutes of videos. It's step by step. And I think it's so good, I put a 30-day money-back guarantee on it. So it's for $97 is the introductory price on it. It will go up afterwards, but we'll put it out there at $97 because I'm just trying to get people, I want some positive vibes about it. And yeah, guess what I'm going to do with that? I'm going to market that so I can go and leverage that and sell more of it.
Like all great businesses should. But the return on investment for yourself, for the WIFM, for you doing that course, if 30 minutes a day is the average, like bring that on.
I was just going to add, most people who I work with, they want speed, they want to save time. After I work with them, you know what the biggest thing they've got? And it's not what I sell. They actually get more clarity. So then by getting more clarity to really understand where they should be focusing, what they should be doing, they actually become more effective. So it's a speed thing that attracts them. It's the clarity thing that really sticks with them, what they take home with them.
Yeah, I tell you what, every morning I meditate for clarity. I'm like, please bring me clarity. Point me to the right way. Don't let me lose time doing something that is meaningless. And that's why I've had to block TikTok during work hours. No TikTok for Aileen between 8 and 6.
Well, TikTok can be very Moorish. I've stopped looking at it because it's like that.
It's a dangerous woman, I tell you.
Yeah, I actually played with it from a business development perspective.
Oh, really?
No, I wasn't dancing or doing anything like that because people would be going, you were dancing? Hell no. So mine was some pretty mundane and boring stuff. And it would be something that I'll come back to. But when I heard that the US is trying to get rid of TikTok, my enthusiasm started to remove it. It'll be some other platform that will replace it, which might be Instagram Reels that's out there already.
Yes. Well, Instagram Reels came after TikTok. I think that was Instagram's attempt at getting back at TikTok.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So that might be the tool. Who knows? But there will be something, and I think it's got a piece in it. It's just that as a solopreneur, you want to be able to do it and just manage it easily.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's the thing is, especially for solopreneurs, when you already are the person doing everything, I couldn't agree more that learning how to do things more effectively and with more clarity has got to be one of the key ways to change your game and create a value-driven brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Glenn, it is nearly time for us to go. But before I let you go, our listeners by now would be well aware that before we finish each podcast, I get you to tell me that in our guest profiles that get sent out, I ask you, what is the song that gets you pumped up for anything? Do you remember what you told me your song was?
Oh, yeah, I do, which is going to sound really funny.
It does.
My favorite genre of music nowadays is country music. But I mean, to get pumped up for anything, I would go with Lose Yourself by Eminem.
Now, if I could just say, that was a bit of a surprise for me, knowing you, and now even knowing that you are a country music buff, to see you belting out a bit of Lose Yourself from Eminem did make me smile a little bit. So now
That's what I'm here for.
You might not be aware, but why I ask all of my guests what their favorite song is and what gets them pumped up for anything is because when this goes live, I will have added it to the Aileen Day guest official Spotify playlist. And so you are now officially a contributor to the playlist that will pump you up and get you ready for anything. So thank you kindly for your contribution. Eminem says thanks for the royalties.
And I want everyone to think of me now as a middle-aged white boy rapper.
Just like Eminem. To be honest, he probably loves a bit of country as well. Let's not pigeonhole him. Oh, goodness me. I can't stop. My eyes are tearing up from laughing so much. Well, that is pretty much it from us here today. If you want to get in touch with Glenn, or hear more about what Glenn does or how he can help you in your business become more productive and more effective and get more of your time back, or would like to know any more about the wonderful insights that he's delivered on how you can create your own value-driven brand, you can go to valuedrivenbrand.com/podcast series, and all of Glenn's information, his socials, his LinkedIn, everything that you need to get in touch with Glenn will be available at the valuedrivenbrand.com/podcast series website. And until we meet again, Glenn, I just want to say thank you so much. It has been so much fun hanging out with you again. And thank you so much for bringing such beautiful and wonderful insights to our listeners today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here, Aileen, and thank you to your listeners.
Oh, they say thanks too. Now, for all of you out there in podcast hearing land or YouTube watching land, from me, Aileen Day, and productivity king, Glenn Tranter, that is everything we've got for today. So get out there, go and create value for somebody else in your life, because what goes around comes around. I'm Aileen Day. Have a great week. Thanks for listening to the Value Driven Brand Podcast with your host, Aileen Day. Is your business struggling to become known as the sought-after leader in your industry? Access our Value Driven Brand quiz and special 3-part podcast series to identify the gaps and what you need to focus on first. Go to www.valuedrivenbrand.com/podcast series. That's valuedrivenbrand.com/podcast series. Tune in next time where we discuss more ideas on how you can deliver your own value-driven brand.